and then we have castles, which are actually very cheap because what the heck are you going to do with a castle?
I would love a castle.
I've searched the world and found a magical place to call home. My name is Jessica Colley, and I work for Keller Williams, and every day I help people find their dream home in Western North Carolina. Thanks for joining me in this Poolside Chat series, where we'll learn firsthand from experts across the real estate industry.
Ciao from San Gemini in Italy here with another edition of Poolside Chats with Jess. Just not my pool. We are here at a beautiful villa in Tuscany on our anniversary trip, and here in Umbria on vacation. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm here today with Caroline. She is a fellow Keller Williams agent. She's the OP of a market center in Griffin in Perugia. Welcome to the pool.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Good. So tell me, Caroline, a little bit about how you came to Italy and became a realtor, and a little bit about Italian real estate.
Okay. I came here from the Caribbean. I'm Dutch. I was born in Holland, grew up in Holland, studied in Holland. Then I escaped as I have somewhat of an adventurous streak in me.
And it's freezing there.
Well, it's gray, it's raining, it's depressing. I went to the Caribbean, spent 14 years enjoying the beach life, and then it was time to move on. So I thought, looking at the map, where else could I go than Italy? And basically took dogs, cats, and a couple of potato chip boxes, really the small ones, 8 of them only. And we got on the plane and we came to Umbria, as it is the center of Italy. And I was really captivated by the very authentic look of Umbria. Very medieval still, little hilltop towns, in the winter very mystical, in the summer lovely and very warm during the day but cool nights. And I basically lost my heart to this part of Italy.
It's easy to do. I'm doing it while we're here.
So I ended up here, and then I had to reinvent myself because in my previous life I hadn't even been a realtor. And I thought, how about I make use of the fact that I am a foreigner in Italy, because the local agents are all Italian, and for foreign buyers obviously it's much easier to hook up with me. I speak various languages, I understand where they come from, I understand their mindset, mentality, and so for me it is fairly easy to help and guide them along, to prepare them also for the process of buying here. That takes a bit of patience, a lot of time, and that actually worked out pretty well. So up till now I've been mainly dealing with second home market, which basically means cute stone
Villas.
Stone properties.
Old.
Usually old. And that can be anything from a farmhouse to a portion to hamlets, whole hamlets, castles, apartments in hamlets, and anything. The issue here is we don't get pre-approved buyers like you have. Because here you can only apply for a mortgage when you show up with the property that you want to buy. But as it then takes like 3 months for someone to get approved and get the mortgage approved, most likely the property will have already been sold to someone else. So that
more
whole
cash buyers.
Yeah, that whole system here doesn't work like in the US.
Okay. So what kind of inventory numbers do you have? Do you have more houses than people are coming, or you have no houses and more buyers that want to buy houses?
That again depends on the market segment.
In the area.
And the area, some areas are very high in demand. Other areas are left behind. The northern part of Europe, of Umbria, which is a bit more disconnected, has more inventory than buyers, whereas the southern part, closer to Rome, has the situation the other way around. So it depends really on the area. But then on the other hand, I have to say, after many years, the Italian market, the Umbrian market, at the end of the day, is always a slightly incomprehensible. just to put it like that, it's slightly incomprehensible. You can find a good deal maybe one day, yes, and then it'll never show up again. And that right property that you've been looking for 10 years finally comes around the corner. You never know here.
Do you have an MLS? How do you advertise your properties?
No, unfortunately here we don't have that.
Okay.
I remember that in 2013 I was the first ever agent, I think, in my city, Toddy, that had a buyer. I didn't have the property, and so I said to my partners, why don't I go to the neighbors, because they also have nice stuff for sale. They basically wanted to throw me out.
Yeah.
For that total insane reasoning. From there we've gone quite far by now, which in Italian terms means that we collaborate agencies with other agencies, but getting to an MLS system here is a future fantasy.
Not possible. Well, that's very interesting. So if I had a buyer and I was looking for a specific house, I would maybe go to an agency, and that person would call the other agencies and say...
That we can do.
Okay.
That we can do, and that we also do. Which obviously makes the situation much easier to handle. If you come from abroad and you have to contact 20 different agencies, you go completely nuts.
Yeah.
Also because a lot of the times the listings online don't show all the essential information. So you look at the nice pictures and you think, I want to see all of those. And then at the end of the day, you've seen all of those and there wasn't anything right. Whereas if you have a reference point, someone who checks everything before you come over and gets the full concept of the property that is offered for sale, then that obviously saves a lot of time and a lot of frustration.
Always hire an agent.
Always hire an agent. Yes. No, definitely. Makes life much easier. And then we have castles, which are actually very cheap, because what the heck are you going to do with a castle?
I would love a castle. I'm in. What would a castle cost?
Well, yesterday I saw one for 650,000.
Sounds amazing.
Euros. It depends a lot, obviously, on the state the property is in. If you have to renovate a castle,
I'm sure that's a few hoops to jump through.
Well, that's a very costly operation. On the other hand, it's also complicated because a lot of properties here are protected. There's a lot of restrictions, and you're not allowed to modify the outside of the property. You're not allowed to do this, to do that. And so those are projects that need to be carefully evaluated before ever getting started.
Right. Do you have, so in North Carolina, we have what's called our due diligence period, which is our time for inspections, and does that exist here? It's for 6 months? So.
Yes, the concept exists, but we're a bit in difficulty if we have to give a time schedule on that. Because a lot of the time it takes an awful lot of time to get our hands on all the paperwork. So it's not something that we can do like that.
And a home inspection.
Home inspection, that's an interesting one, because I actually have printed the home inspection forms that I found online in the US for my colleague who's a builder, geometer, etc. And because obviously being used to foreign buyers who ask me from Australia and the US for a home inspection, no Italian agent will say, oh, of course. They will all say, casa?
Yeah, why?
They've never heard of it.
Yeah.
So we offer that with my colleague, but then there are situations where we are sort of, slightly blocked. Let's say we have a beautiful stone hamlet, and we're looking at a cielo terra, so that's a hamlet house. To get on the roof, you would have to. Yeah, that's basically impossible. You would have to get to the municipality, rent the public space to put up the scaffolding, which is gonna cost a lot of money, to then go all the way up to the roof, which is insane. So we try to do whatever is possible. Obviously, we can check on the structural state. The finishes, the whatever, but it isn't guaranteed that we can check every bit and piece of a property.
Right. That's unbelievable. And another reason to hire a good home inspector.
Yes.
So, for example, if somebody was interested in just a plot of land that had olive trees or grapes on it, could they tear the olive trees down and put a house? I hate olives. I want a house there instead.
Oh, really?
No.
Maybe buy in North Carolina. I know a good agent there, Jessica something.
Yeah.
Okay, here in Umbria, the countryside is very well protected, which means that building a home can only be done at a site where there is a so-called pre-existing volume.
I see.
So there has to be either an existing house, a ruin, or a heap of stones that proves that
there was a possible
once
house
was
there.
a house. Okay? If that's not the case, then you will not be allowed to build on that site. Apart from that, landscape is protected in the sense that, for example, a big olive grove on the land registry shows up as an olive grove. And you cannot just get the bulldozer in and take away the olive grove. That's not done here.
That's not
so you have to be really careful and understand really well, or get the right agent who helps you to understand which moves you can make and which moves you just cannot make.
Oh, which keeps the countryside so beautiful
Absolutely,
and pristine.
it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's very well protected, and obviously we see and enjoy the result of that.
Exactly.
We are obviously expanding with more agents, and so we are diversifying also the market. So we get more people in, commercial agents, residential stuff, second home markets, investment properties. And I'm just looking forward to developing the company and put it on the map.
So exciting for Keller Williams to be expanding in this beautiful region. So we were talking a little bit off camera about the process of a transaction, and she was telling me how it could take 6 months to a year to close on a house here. So no quick sales in this market. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. Yes, that might sound surprising. I'm Dutch. I've got ties with the US, and I know that you guys basically have a very short time to move on from the offer to the actual property
Closing,
transfer, the closing. Here, however, we have to deal with an enormous amount of documents. The bureaucracy takes a lot of time, and very often we have properties that haven't been sold for maybe 50, 60 or 100 years.
200 years,
200 worst case. And so that means that the documents need to be recuperated, redone, found, sent on, created, or maybe over time, as properties stay in the same family or ownership for a long time, they did modifications that never turned up in paperwork.
Transferred on napkins.
Or they added pieces on to the house which are not on paper, and off we go again. So even in the best case, when everything is ready and available, very often takes about 6 weeks to get everything from the offer to the actual closing. Which
6 months.
No, well, the best case, best possible scenario on the Italian planet is about 6 weeks. That happened, I think, to me in 7 years about twice. So
much longer.
The worst case I've had was 11 months.
That's unbelievable.
It happens, but then, if you have the right people helping you along,
right,
in the end, everything can be done.
That's all it's about. Having the right attorneys, home inspectors, everything. Agents. It's right to hire the right agent to get you to the finish line. So Italy had a really, really hard time with COVID. How did that affect your business? Did you have any business? Anyone wanting to buy sight unseen? You say, I don't want to live in my country anymore. I'm just going to buy a house in Tuscany.
Well, obviously, that last thing that you're saying wasn't really the first thought during COVID, as we were hit as the first country outside of China. So a lot of people actually backed off from the idea of buying in Italy. Then with the agencies within Italy, it depended really much on which market they addressed. So for us, dealing with second homes, at the time we basically saw our business crumble and vanish off the face of the planet to an absolute zero. We sold one property to an Israeli buyer with video calls.
Right, unseen.
And that was basically it. within the Italian market, we've seen people shifting from city apartments and homes without outdoor space to the same city within a range of like 5 kilometers, or like 3 miles, to properties with an outdoor space.
Yes.
As we've had like a year of lockdown here, which was obviously kind of difficult. So it's not that, as a lot of people said in the beginning, everyone will now live in the countryside, because moving to the countryside obviously means a change of lifestyle.
Right.
It's more costly. If you live in the city and you have your work, your children, your schools, all the amenities, it doesn't mean that COVID is just gonna make you find like $500,000 to buy a countryside property.
Right.
So that initial thought that a lot of people invented obviously didn't come true.
Right. Yeah, and we had the same thing happen in our area in North Carolina, where people can work remotely, and if you have internet, you can work anywhere. So, we had tons of people moving to the area, to the mountains, to kind of escape. They want 5-10 acres and mountain views, and the kids can go to school online. So we had a little bit of that, but people continued to kind of come. So it's unbelievable what you went through, and we were thinking about Italy every day when we would see what was happening on the news. So I just want to cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Thank you for coming and chatting with me by the pool today. If you guys like what you see, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching this episode of Poolside Chats with Jess at our villa here in Umbria. See you next time.
Bye bye. Ciao, ciao.